Hey, thanks for being a part of the conversation. This is Play It Forward. Real people, real stories, the struggle to play it forward. Episode number 563 is with author Cassandra Clare from the book Chain of Thorns.
Good. How are you?
I got to tell you, my daughter has gone crazy over these books, and it's got to make you feel incredible as an author that people have this kind of an expression when they start reading your stories.
That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. It's always very surprising, I think, because, you know, the characters in the story, they live in your head for such a long time, and writing is kind of a solitary process. And then when the book actually comes out in the world, you don't know how people are going to respond to it. So it's always really exciting when, you know, the story that's just been in your mind all this time is picked up on by people out in the world.
Magic, mystery, romance. You have this way of making sure that it becomes that place of escape, but at the same time, it's that place of modern day realism, if you know what I mean.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, growing up, that was the kind of book that I liked. I loved books, with magic and fantasy, but I really especially liked books where magic and things like that were in our world. Harry Potter's a good example. Mm-hmm. The idea that, you know, our world lies next to a magical world that you could go to if you just knew how to get there, was way more exciting to me than the idea of like a, fantasy world that was totally disconnected from ours.
I love the idea that it's a journey because, people love to be on a journey. That's why we binge watch, because these shows are a journey, and that you make this very attractive to the eyes, so that it creates those pictures inside our imaginations.
Yeah, look, I'm a veteran binge watcher myself, so I know exactly what you mean. Because once you enter the world, you don't want to leave it, and you are absolutely going on a journey. And especially, since I write books with younger, teenage protagonists, often they're going on a journey of growing up and realizing who they are. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we're on the same page then, in the way that we think that, as you're reading it, you can see yourself inside this story as a reader. It's not like you're just sitting there, taking in the words. You become a part of it.
Yeah, that's what I always strive for is, when to say, like, come and live in this world. And it's fantastical and it's magical. It's dangerous because, part of it is also, we're living vicariously through the heroes of the story. And, and we're watching them face, dangerous challenges in my books, and overcome them. And, it's a metaphor, fantasy is a metaphor for overcoming big challenges in our life, and it may not be a huge bug-eyed demon, but it's something.
What do you feel when the ideas first come to you? Because you've got to be original as you go forward, but at the same time you've got to have continuity. But when it comes out of you in the very beginning, and you build on.
That's a really great question. For me, the characters always come first.
Mm-hmm.
And when they sort of feel like I tend to think of the character and then I kind of roll that idea around in my head. And when that character starts to feel like a real person, that's when I know that I've got that character right. And then the character begins to surround themselves with other characters with whom they interact. And that network of relationships sort of forms the backbone of the person. And I know them, and, I know the decisions that they would make.
James and Cordelia, are they people that you have known somewhere along the way? Because, to paint their images inside the paragraphs, or are they did they come to you in a thought, and all of a sudden you like an artist, you had to bring them forward?
I think it's a bit of a combination. I think of it as a grain of sand. The idea is a grain of sand, and often absolutely something about somebody I know or have heard about, or a historical figure or something like that is the first grain of sand, and then you roll it around in your head like a grain of sand rolled around inside an oyster, and then hopefully you create this pearl at the end that is this real seeming character that really feels like a person. And I can see the roots in the character of people that I know, or famous, people throughout history or whatever, but I hope that they have become, their own individual character. And people often ask me, do the characters come to you in a dream? And I'm like, I wish, because that would be a lot less work. But the only dream I've ever had about my characters is that we were all in a supermarket line checkout together, and they were in front of me, and they all had too many items in their carts.
That's what I love about being a writer, is that it's like you want to protect those areas where ideas come to you, because you don't want to second guess it, but at the same time, you just want to be able to trust it. And when your characters come back like that, I love moments like that.
Yes, I woke up from that dream and I had thought, is there anything useful to me creatively in that? And I was like, probably not, except that it's probably telling me, the dreams are metaphors too. It's probably telling me that I'm struggling with these characters right now.
Do you have a favorite writing place? Because, I'm such a big fan of Julia Cameron in the way that she does The Artist Way, and she always speaks of those writing places.
I think that's very true. Some places kind of have good vibes for writing, or better vibes than another place. And obviously, I don't always get to choose. I bring my laptop with me. I work when I travel, but I have a barn at the back of my house. And when I moved in, I just thought, okay, this will be my writing barn. So we made it over, and I filled it with like all of my books. There are maps. There's the whiteboard that's got the, writing where I write down sort of the structure and the scenes of the book. And there's, string connecting the different characters. I'm starting to realize that it sounds like a detective movie where they've got that wall of suspects. So it's a little like that, but it's connecting different, pieces of the story to each other, because for me, it really helps to have sort of visual and physical kind of representations of the story itself. So I filled the barn with, my favorite books, paintings, art, reproductions of covers of the books and things like that, so that it feels like a real, like when I step into it, I feel like I'm stepping into a writing space.
So with the story taking place in London, when you step into that story, do you hear the British accent?
I do. Now, I'm not going to fake a British accent. You don't want to hear it. It's really bad, my British accent. But I do hear them that way. And my parents, when I was a kid, my dad worked for the London School of Economics, so it's sort of a second home city for me. But obviously, this is a historical book, so a huge amount of research goes into what was London like in 1903. And so I feel like this is the closest thing, historical fiction is the closest thing we have to time travel, to like recreating what it would be like to walk those streets and see the gas lights and, the trolleys and the fog, over London and all of the things that have sort of gone into the past. So I when I'm actually like in a real writing place, I can hear the British accent. I can hear the jingle of the omnibus bells and the sound of horses and things like that. So you really, I think, for a lot of writers, you sort of go deep into that imagery and in that place in order to find your way of describing it to people so they feel like they're there.
Where can readers go to find out more about you and basically to embrace your journey? Because you are the reason why people do pick up a writing instrument and do their own stories, because you have a lot of inspiration and flow in what you do.
I hope so. One of the incredibly rewarding things about writing is, you form these relationships, these social relationships with readers. And, I'll hear from them. Sometimes I've heard from people who are 13, and then 10 years later I'll hear from them, or 15 years later, and they're married, they have, a job writing, they want to tell me about, how they, how their lives are, and it's just kind of this incredible feeling of having been, a part of their imaginative journey through life. If people want to know more about me, my website's very easy. It's CassandraClare.com, or you can find me on Instagram at CassieClare1.
Please come back to this show anytime in the future. Cassandra, the door is always going to be open for you.
Well, thank you so much for the great questions, and I really appreciate you having me on.
Well, you be brilliant today, okay?
Have a good one.